Welcome to Widowed Too Soon, where real-life widows and widowers come together to share their stories of survival, faith, and the journey of finding hope in the darkest of times. Whether you're newly widowed or have been on this journey for some time, each week we're here to provide you with inspiration, practical advice, and the reassurance that you are not alone. You were made to not only survive, but thrive. And now here's your host, a woman who has walked this path herself, who finds solace in writing, joy in speaking, and freedom in dancing like nobody's watching. Michelle Bader Ebersole.
Hey guys, can you believe we are quickly approaching the holiday season? I want to tell you about an exciting event coming up. I'm honored to be a part of this. It's a virtual event, just like I did last month, but this one is about the holidays. I'm excited to invite you to the Holiday Strategy Summit on Thursday, November 12th from 11 to 1 p.m. Pacific time. I'm one of the 14 speakers, and you won't want to miss this opportunity to gain strategies to rock your holiday season. Attendance at the live event is free, so register today and start selecting which sessions you want to be a part of. My topic is making new tradition and finding peace no matter what. And I go live at 12:15 p.m. Pacific. I'm so excited to share this virtual training event with you. You'll learn to take your holiday season to a new level of peace and joy. All of these godly women and speakers, along with myself, are here to help you delight in the holiday season this year. So join me on Tuesday, November 12th. You can register now in the show notes. It's a free event. I'd love to have you there. It's a live event, and I hope you can join us. Now, get ready for our show. Welcome to Widowed Too Soon. This is Michelle Bader Ebersole. I am so excited because I'm sitting here with a fan favorite, and he's like a top fan as well, Rob Linger. How are you today, Rob?
I'm doing great, Michelle. How about you?
Good. We were just trying to decide if you've been on 3 or 4 episodes, but whatever it is, we're happy to have you here and to have you back for another one. So before we get into what we're going to talk about today, I think we all want to know what's been going on in your life since we last
Absolutely
talked.
nothing at all.
That's not what I thought I saw on Facebook or what you told me about. Tell us, what is the big thing going on in your life right now? I feel like there's something a couple of really big things. Tell us some big things.
Yeah, well, the first one on October 3rd, my daughter gave birth to her first child.
Yay!
I only have one daughter, one child, and so yeah, she gave birth to Chase.
I love that.
So I had my first grandchild, my first grandson, and really excited about that. That was great.
So are you going to be like Grandpa, Papa? Like, do you have a name?
Well, I have some Appalachian blood in me, so I'm going to go with what I called my grandfathers, and that's Papa.
I like that. Papa. That's cute. I love it. So did that moment when you held your first grandchild, did it bring you any grief?
You know, it at first it didn't. Obviously, I was sad. My daughter was sad that her mom wasn't there. Kathy wasn't there to spend time with her, to be there with her. But you know, I don't want to say it this way because it's not how I really mean it. But time has really helped me.
Right.
But also my faith has really helped me, and knowing that Kathy is in a much better place.
Right.
My daughter has lost 3 babies due to miscarriage. She had while Kathy was still here, she had a miscarriage on Thanksgiving morning of 2022. And Kathy was able to help her through that. And that was good. But then, boy, the summer of 23, after Kathy had died, she lost twins.
Oh.
And so she, but you know, I think about that, and I know that Kathy is in heaven with her 3 grandkids that she lost.
Yes. It's a beautiful thought.
So yeah, that you know, it's a little bittersweet, but I know that even if Kristen and I, my daughter and I, were able to pull Kathy from heaven and come down and hold Chase for a minute, Kathy would be so mad at us.
Right.
What are you bringing me out of paradise for? But so that helps me, and
That's great.
that's really, she had a very strong faith, and she was the type of person that let all her doctors know,
Mm,
and
love
and
that.
so she yeah yeah I have my grandson Chase, and that's good, but I really didn't have much grief with it.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah, because I wonder about that moment in the future when I have grandkids, what that'll be like. And yeah.
well,
So, oh, go
being
ahead.
29, you got a long ways to go.
Thank you. You know what? No one's told me I'm 29 in a long time. So thank you. And we haven't reminded the audience of that in probably like,
Well,
6 months to a year. So I'm
well, there
very
you go.
happy to remind them that it'll be a long time till I'm a grandma for sure. Thank you. So there's something else kind of big that happened in your life. What is that?
Oh, let's see. Yeah, what was that? Oh, that's right. I got engaged.
Yay! Congratulations. Tell us a little bit about. So, for those who might not know, could you really quick give us like the quick version? Because people always ask me the biggest question I get is like, well, where did you meet Joel? Like, I don't know where to meet somebody, blah, 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 blah. Like, tell us your quick version. I know they can go back and hear the longer version of like how you met her and your story. And I want to hear the proposal story too.
Oh, well, the
So,
proposal was actually a big failure, but I'll get down to
mm,
that. But so her name's Nancy. She and I went to high
Nancy.
school together
Love it.
and went to a small Christian school. We had 27 in our class, and
Hmm.
so we knew each other. And she was always dating somebody, and I was always dating somebody, and so we never our paths never really crossed that way.
Hmm.
Um, but uh, fast forward to 2019, after Kathy was diagnosed, I started posting updates through text messages to all of our different friends and everything about
Oh,
Kathy,
uh-huh.
and that got to be a real hassle because you can only
Yeah.
text so many people in a group,
Right.
and I don't care if it's an iPhone or an Apple or Android, but
I
um,
do care.
we know which one's better. We know the
That's
Android
what I
one,
was gonna
but
say.
anyways.
It's definitely Apple.
So anyways, we decided at that point that I was going to start putting everything on Facebook, because that way I
Yeah,
don't have to worry about who did I
easier.
text, who did I
Yes.
not text, and anyone texts me and says, "Hey, can you give me an update?" Check my Facebook page. So
Right. Exactly. I did that too. Hmm.
so Nancy started. She and I became Facebook friends back in 2011, and I look back to see,
Mm.
and uh, it was kind of interesting how it was working. But anytime that she would respond to any of my updates, she normally didn't make a comment, but she would like or hit the care button occasionally, and it stuck in my mind. Ooh, Nancy, and it was weird. I couldn't explain why. Well,
Mm.
then Kathy died on January 3rd, 2022. Or, I'm sorry, 2023, and uh, Nancy was following it at that point as well, and she decided she was witnessing a love that Kathy and I had that she had never had. She came. I'm not going to get into her story about where she came from, basically, but I'll just say that she came from a tough situation, and so she never really had the love that Kathy and I shared, and she saw that, and she desired that. And about, I would say, the summer of 23, I started praying that I had a list of like 12 items, and this goes back to Mark Massaro. He's like, if you're going to pray for something, pray specific,
Hmm.
and so I decided, you know what, I'm going to follow Mark's lead on this, and I started praying for 12 specific items. And Nancy ended up she checks 11 of those 12.
Oh.
And the only one she doesn't check is I was asking for a widow. And
Mm.
But that's interesting. But anyways, and the last item I was asking for is similar to Mark. I've been out of the dating game for a total of 38 plus years. It's like, where do I even begin? And
Right.
so I prayed, Lord, send her to me and also make it obvious to me really fast. And fast forward to my birthday was on Father's Day this past year, and on June 16th, on June 20th, I get a Facebook message from Nancy wishing me a happy birthday, and something in my mind stuck that I need to respond to her, and I need to respond to let her know that I want to take this beyond what. So I responded with some goofy text or some message back to her, and that was like, I don't know, 9 in the morning, and we probably Facebook messaged about 1,000 times that day back and forth.
Wow.
And then we took it to text messaging. Then we started phone calling, and that happened within maybe 24 hours of when she first contacted me. We got into phone calls, and it got obvious to both of us really fast that this is something that we should pursue. And so she was supposed to come and visit her mom, who still lives in this area, in the beginning of October. And this was the middle of June, towards the end of June. I'm thinking that's a long time to see if this is worth pursuing or not. And I asked her at the beginning of July, hey, or at the end of, actually, like one of the last days of June, I asked her, what about me coming down and visiting you?
Right.
And she said, yeah, let's do that. So I booked a trip for the weekend after July 4th and went down there, and we hit it off right away. And it was real interesting as how quickly things, just how quickly, we just meshed. It was just the way it was. And so I've actually been down there 3 times now. She came up here on October 3rd, the day Chase was born. Her flight didn't get in until late that night. There was a couple delays. And once she finally got in, it was right around midnight on the 3rd. 3 or 4 days later is when Hurricane Milton started to develop in the Gulf of Mexico. And it turned out it headed straight to her house in Florida.
Wow.
And she ended up the bad thing was it's a hurricane coming straight towards, her house was almost ground zero for landfall. And the good thing was it shut down the airport where she was supposed to fly back into. So we ended up with about 4 extra days or 5 extra days of her being here. So that was really
That's
nice.
awesome.
But I had bought a ring, and it wasn't quite ready until she was already in town at that point. And I just decided I'm going to sit on it for a couple of days and see what happens. And then after her flight was canceled to head back to Florida, I decided I'm going to take this extended stay. I'm going to make an opportunity to do this. So we decided we were going to go out to eat on Friday night, and we both just wanted to do like a steakhouse. So we went to Texas Roadhouse, and we got there. Well, as soon as I walked in the house, she was here. She was almost ready to go. I walked in the house, and she noticed right away. She goes, "What's wrong?" I said, "Nothing's wrong." She goes, "No, something's wrong." I said, "No, nothing's wrong." So we're driving out to Texas Roadhouse, and she asked me about 3 more times in the car, "What's wrong?" I said, "Nothing's wrong." The whole time in my head, I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? So there was something going through my head.
Yeah, you were just thinking about it. Yeah.
And so we get to Roadhouse, and she jumped out. She put our names in, and then I said, "Why don't we just wait in the truck for a little bit until they page us, until they call us, or text us?" And so she got back in the truck. We sat in the parking lot. And she's like, "Seriously, what is wrong?" I said, nothing's wrong. So I tried to carry on a normal conversation. Again, she asked me 3 more times. And finally I said, "Okay, You want to know what's wrong? Here's what's wrong. And I pulled out the ring from my pocket.
Oh my God. Here's what's wrong.
We were sitting in the front seat of my
Rob.
truck in a typical Rob Linger way. I managed to screw it up somehow, but hey. So right there in the truck, I asked her, and she says, you know what? I'm glad you did it that way because I didn't want it to be in front of a bunch of people. I didn't want it to be in front of family or a bunch of friends. We had a high school class reunion at the beginning of the week at my house, and
fun.
she thought I was going to do it then.
Oh,
but it hadn't even crossed my mind at that point. One thing, because the ring wasn't here yet, so I wasn't ready. So yeah, that was how I did it. And then later on,
hey, it worked.
I took the ring back off, and I said, I'm going to ask you again. So so that time it was a little more properly, but still.
Hey, you can't mess it up. If it's the right person, it's all gonna be amazing. So that's so exciting. I know that on behalf of the Widow Too Soon community, we are all so excited for you.
Well, thank you.
And I mean, you're another story that we've watched since the beginning of this. You know, you were a guest when you were like a baby widow, and then just seeing your journey through this whole thing and wanting to find love, not knowing where you were going to find it. And God brought her to you, like,
yes, he
through
did.
the magic of Facebook, just like Joel and I were through the magic of Facebook.
We got some similar stories where you guys went to school together as well, and it's a long distance relationship. We're 1,120 miles away from each other, but
yeah, it can be challenging, but then once you get married and you live together, it's just like, okay, it was all worth it. Like you really, there is something so beautiful about love after loss that it's hard to explain to anyone. And you feel it when you're dating, engaged, but when you get married, from my experience, you like really feel it. Like, whoa, like this is absolutely amazing. I never want to take a day for granted. I'm so happy to be married. And just it's a beautiful thing. So we are so excited for you. It's been so fun to watch this, and I think it is the most beautiful thing when God writes your love story. Like there's, you can't write these things. Like God brings it together just like he did with Joel and I, and it's been amazing to watch your story. And one of my favorite things to do is to go to widows' weddings when they get married again. I've had the privilege of going to, after myself, 2 more. And then I'm actually going to be in a wedding at the end of May. A friend who's getting married again, who's widowed. I'm going to her wedding. But it's so beautiful because it's just, there's something so joyful and so exciting. And it's amazing. So congratulations.
Well, thank you. Having lost a love, like you said earlier, you don't take it for granted. And it's something that I never wanted to experience, but I don't know. I'm glad I'm experiencing this, I guess. So, the best way to describe it. But so we said, we've talked about having a beach wedding down in the Sarasota, Florida area, and problem is Hurricane Milton wiped out all the beaches in her area, but it sounds like they're starting to come back. They're starting to get them back to where they were, so that's been pretty quick. So now we're in the process of trying to find a beach venue. So we have a date, just don't know where yet.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love it. So today we're going to get into talking about surviving the holidays. I like to say not only surviving, but thriving, because as we both know, the holidays can be very, very difficult. So let's start with your story. Like, tell us about your first holiday season. Was it difficult for you? What was it like? Like, I don't even know this. I'm going to be learning with the audience right now how it was for you.
Well, Kathy died on January 3rd of 23.
Okay.
So just to back up a little bit, she was in the hospital. She had if you recall, she had a new drug that was just released. Actually, she was the first patient at University Hospitals of Cleveland, Seidman Cancer Center, to actually have this new drug administered. So we had pictures of her going, patient number 1 and all this. And that was on, I believe it was December 18th.
Okay,
No, it was
gotcha.
December 12th of 22. And she ended up coming home on the 18th. I believe I got to think back to remember all my time frames, but it was basically a week before Christmas she came home. And at that time, all the symptoms that she was showing were side effects of this new med. And so we had a good Christmas together that last Christmas, but it was literally 2 days later is when she started going downhill. And again, we thought at that point that it was a side effect of the meds. It turns out that it wasn't. On December 29th, that afternoon, I ended up having to take her back. Uh, Let me see. It was the 30th. I'm sorry, December 30th. I had to take her back to the hospital, and they brought her in through the ER and actually got her into a room at that point, and she went downhill real fast from that point on. And on January 3rd, she died. One side note about January 3rd. That's Nancy's birthday.
That's right. I remember you saying that. Yeah.
And I've talked to somebody about this as well. I talked to my pastor's wife about this, and I said, this is a tough one. But and my pastor's wife called Kathy her best friend. So she was somebody that I could talk to about Kathy, and she gets it. But she told me, hey, don't think of it as a bad thing. Think of it as a blessing, because now you have something to distract you on the day that Kathy died. And
Right.
she said, you can consider this as two birthdays. It's Nancy's birthday, but it's also Kathy's day that she entered heaven. And so anyways, so I didn't have to worry about the holidays until this past year, until December of 23.
Okay, so you've only gone through one holiday season after she passed away.
Only went through one. And it was, again, I always fall back on knowing where Kathy is at right now, knowing she's in paradise, knowing that, again, if I was to somehow bring her back, she would be so ticked off at me that gives me comfort. It gives me comfort knowing that thanks to her faith in the Lord, that she is in paradise.
Yeah.
And I, that's where we all want to be.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not going to push it to get there, but yeah, so I constantly fall back on that. And, Lord, just make me remember this, keep this fresh in my mind. And that's really been what's helped me through. It was pretty sad that Christmas morning I went to my daughter's house, who's like 10 miles away, and we had a good Christmas together. We had a great time. There was that empty chair, and that's just a constant reminder. But as much as again, I kept falling back on where Kathy is now, and so that's been my comfort. Lord's provided that. He's provided that picture for me of where she's at, to constantly give me that comfort whenever I need it. So
yeah. So you had that empty chair reminder. Did you do like same traditions? Did you change things up? What was it like for you?
We didn't really have. I mean, to say traditions, we didn't really. We would always. Kathy and I originally, before this, we would open up gifts ourselves, and then especially since Kristen got married and moved away, Kathy and I would exchange gifts, and then Kristen and Tony, they would either come to our house or we'd go to their house, and then we'd open up our gifts for each of us, for the whole family at that point. And so we kind of kept that whole tradition, except for Kathy wasn't there to open gifts with in the first thing in the morning. So other than that, we kept things pretty much the way they were. I guess we're kind of simple that way. So
Yeah. Yeah, I found for my first Christmas, like doing things the same was too difficult. So starting with holiday season, like pumpkin patch, that's the first thing with my, and, my kids, it's different too. My kids were still living at home. So do we do the same thing? So that very first thing was, okay, let's do the same pumpkin patch we've always done. And that was a massive mistake. First of all, my kids were getting too old for the pumpkin patch. They didn't really care. And then second of all, it just was too big of a hole. Like it was like,
right.
okay, all right. So I was like, pumpkin patch fail. We're not doing that again. And we haven't been back to that pumpkin patch. And then I was like, okay, Thanksgiving, we're going to do completely different. I don't want to just think about him being gone. And so we went to Great Wolf Lodge, which, if you're not aware, most people are aware, like we have one here where it's like a water park and a
Yeah,
hotel
there's
and
one
it's a
not too
whole.
far from here either.
Okay. Yeah, and it's a whole themed thing. And so my parents went with me and the kids, and that was great because it didn't feel like Thanksgiving. And
Yeah.
so it felt different. I do remember being at the water park and the kids were playing, and I was just listening to music and journaling and crying and watching all these families and feeling sorry for myself. And I was like, no, I gotta like snap out of this and like enjoy where I'm at and go be with the kids. And so I did that. But I remember like it was easy to slip into the feeling sorry for myself and watching all these other families and be like, that's not fair. Like they have a dad. Like that lady has a husband. And so that was kind of my Thanksgiving. And then Christmas, I was like, okay, we're gonna do some things the same, but some things different. So we had a billion traditions because Luke loved Christmas. Like starting in October, we'd start watching Christmas movies and making cookies and popcorn while we watched them. And like it was like a big deal. Christmas music starting in October. So, we kind of carried on with that. My oldest, he was 16 at the time, he was definitely listening to the Christmas music early. And we started watching the movies. But I remember being very sad because, like, I had the comments that he would say at each part in the movie, and I would hear it in my mind. But, it was just different. And we did some things differently. Like one of the things we always did as a family was it's called the Queen Anne Victorian Mansion. We would go there, it'd be all lit up with lights. Well, that's where Luke and I got married. And that
Wow.
was one of the deals they said. Okay, so here's the thing. When I was 13 or 14, I went there with my family for the first time at Christmas, and I was like, I'm going to get married here someday. I love this place. And then I did. And one of the deals when you get married there is they say you can come forever for free at Christmas. And so we used to go, but we have not been back there. But I am thinking about doing it soon and bringing Joel there to see where, I got married. And so that's something that we changed. So the first year, I also remember being very, very sad, as we would always have Cinnabons on Christmas morning. We still do. We haven't missed that. But it was so sad. Like I just felt this emptiness that morning. And so then I'm like, hey, let's share memories about your dad. And so every year now we do that. And that kind of helps fill that void of like, he's not here. And, that I just remember the first Christmas was incredibly hard. And my kids are like, this doesn't feel like Christmas. And because they had been so spoiled. I think the 3 Christmases before that, there had been like groups that sponsored us because Luke was going through cancer. So they would get any present they wanted. They make a list and boom, we had it all delivered to our house. And this is, he died in May and this is in December. So people aren't still giving us gifts and all of that. And so
Right.
it was like less of a Christmas than they were used to. And so I think that was hard for them. It was just weird. I just remember it being weird. And so from there, I decided that I'm going to keep some of the same things, but I'm going to change it up. Like I can't do the same things because it just felt too much of a void. And so that's one of the biggest things I recommend to people is mixing it up. Like if there's some special traditions, keep them. But if there's something that's going to make you feel that absence so much that it's just sad, change it. Like
Right.
you don't have to do it. Like we watch some of the same movies, but we've added in new movies. Like even the kids last year were like kind of getting tired of these same movies. I'm like, yeah, I've been watching for like 20 years. So I'm good if you guys don't want to see it again. And Joel's like, why do you watch a movie more than once? I'm like, well, that's what we've done. He's like, didn't we watch this last year? I'm like, yeah, that's what we do. We watch the same ones every year. But I guess my biggest advice to a new widow is don't be afraid to do something different.
Right.
because I feel like that made it so much easier. Oh, and we, we always go in Washington, you go chop down your tree and do the tree farm thing. Like we've always done that. And so I decided we are not going to our same tree farm. I think that would be too hard. And we didn't. We went to a different tree farm, and my brother came and helped us chop down a tree. And also Hayden had been learning, he was old enough, so he got to be the one to officially chop it down, which was a big deal for him. And so just finding a way to keep it the same but different. Like I know some widows who are like, I'm not even celebrating Christmas. And I think that can be a little bit unhealthy, especially for your kids, if you have kids at home, because then it's like another loss if they're not
Right.
getting to experience Christmas because, their dad died or their mom died. Then it's like, oh, that's another loss. But those are some of the things that we've done. We've always liked going to look at Christmas lights. That
Oh
was
yeah.
something that, Luke really liked. So doing that, we kept the same tradition of we open one present on Christmas Eve and the rest on Christmas, and just some of those things. But just know, I think kind of preparing yourself, if this is your first Christmas holiday season you're coming up on, know that it's gonna hurt. But we have to feel it. What we feel God can heal, and to not be
I've heard
afraid,
that
but also
before.
you have, yeah. Well, used to be what we feel we can heal, but now God help me see it's what God can heal. And
That's right.
don't be afraid to feel it, but also just be prepared that you're going to have that time. If that means you need to like build in a little alone time into your day, do it. If you know that, okay, Christmas is going to be hard, like don't try to overpack your schedule. So you're like, I just want to overpack it so I don't think about everything, because you need the space to grieve and to miss them. We've done ornaments for Luke. We have a couple special ones that, we've got that are like part of my heart's in heaven, or I don't remember what they say, just cheesy little in memory ones. And I also have, so my mom always gives us ornaments with pictures on them. And so I have them for like 20 years with pictures, and a lot of them are with Luke, and and Joel's cool with that. We put those up on the tree and we talk about the memories with each one of them. And you know why? I'm just realizing this. I mean, I know this, but why Christmas is also so much about Luke is because he proposed to me. Here, let me tell you my proposal story with Luke. So he lived at his parents', but he had like his own area in the basement. So we got a Christmas tree for his basement, and we were decorating it. And I had bought these little ornaments, like little snowmen. One said Michelle, one said Luke. And I turned around, and when I turned back around, on the ornament, it was like sitting on something like on the fireplace or something. There was a ring hanging from it. And he was like, oh, do you want to put your ornament on? And then I grabbed it, and then I saw the ring, and they got one down on one knee, and they proposed to me. And then the song Santa Baby came on, and like I couldn't listen to that song forever after he died. I was like, change it, I can't hear this. And so that was December 1st that he proposed to me. And so I think that's also why Christmas like hit me really hard too. It was like the anniversary of getting engaged, and it was like his absolute favorite thing was Christmas. And so it was like super, super difficult. And anyways, those are just some of the things that's helped me. We always do like candlelight service on Christmas Eve, and that's something that we love doing and that Luke really loved doing. And I don't know, do you have any other like tips for holidays? I'm talking a lot. Let me let you talk.
Well, Kathy absolutely loved Christmas as well, and she massively decorates the house anyways. There's something on every wall. So what she would do at Christmas time, she would take everything down and replace everything with Christmas decorations.
Wow.
And she did this before she went back into the hospital, and she went back in for that new med. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I think she went in the day before, so I think she went in on December 11th. So from right around Thanksgiving, she tore everything apart and redecorated the whole house for Christmas. And I got ticked at her because she died and didn't get a chance to take everything back down.
On Christmas, yeah.
Left it for us to do, but we were fine. joking about that, but she like you, she loved watching the Christmas movies, and of course Hallmark was, oh
Oh, it's
no,
my
not
favorite.
this. There's only three
Oh, that's the
plots to the
best.
movies, and we know
No,
what the
they're all
movies.
different. They're so good.
Oh, whatever. So, anyways, I think I could probably, even though they're all different movies, I think you get about a quarter of the way into the movie, you know how it's going to go. You get it to about half of the movie, and you could pretty much word for word give the plot from that point on. So,
I
anyways, enough of that.
know. Luke used to always say it's this a different cover, same movie. I'm like, no,
That's
it's
right.
not. Yeah, no, I love those. And do you know how many main characters are widows or widowers? A lot. Like if you start
Oh,
paying
really?
attention in the Hallmark
Yeah,
movies.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
it's uh-huh. Yeah, it's very interesting. But anyways, you were saying that she loved the
So
movies.
she loved, yeah, she loved that. She loved the Christmas music, like just it was always playing, and she there's a favorite Christmas movie in Northeast Ohio that if you're from this area, it's got to be Christmas Story, because
Oh,
it's
that's a
it's
good one.
supposedly taken place in Gary, Indiana, but it was actually filmed, a lot of it, in Ohio, in Cleveland area.
I did not know that.
So the Christmas that when they're in the May Company, when he's going to see Santa, and he gets told,
Yeah.
shoot your eye out, kid, and
Yeah, yeah.
he pushes them down with his foot. That was a store here in Cleveland that was
Oh,
filmed
wow.
at. So the house that they used for that is now a museum on the near west side of Cleveland. So that's interesting. But there's actually one of the year before, Kristen and I and Kathy went and toured the Christmas Story Museum's house. So that was kind of
Cool.
interesting.
That's fun.
Had a picture of Kathy holding the BB gun.
Oh, funny.
But so last Christmas, we always had two Christmas trees. We just did the artificial
Oh,
trees. We always had one in our family room upstairs, and I have a finished basement, pool table, and everything down there. And we had a fun one down there with all kinds of fun ornaments. Not where the one upstairs was all precious moments that Kathy had been
oh,
collecting
nice.
every year for Christmas. And so, we had 38, 37, or actually 36 ornaments. Well, yeah,
Wow.
36 ornaments, all precious moments for each year that we were married. And then a
Oh,
bunch of
love
the
it.
special, whatever else, precious moments that she was able to get. So last year, Kristen came over and she helped me decorate the main tree up in the family room. And I took the one from the basement and I just stuck it in my living room and put it in front of a window, but I didn't decorate it. I just had it lit up, and that was it. It's pre-lit, so um, I I only decorated my family room. I didn't decorate everything like Kathy did. That wasn't my thing. It was her thing. And the more I brought out Christmas decorations, the worse I started to feel. So I just nope, I'm going to do it my way this year as far as decorating goes. Um, when I did get over to Tony and Kristen's house on Christmas morning, I didn't stay here at my house real late. I got up and got moving and got over there because, again, the Christmas morning was Kathy and my time to spend and have
Yeah.
Christmas gifts together and all. And so I just said, I got to get over there as soon as I can instead of dwelling in here and thinking about it. I do remember a couple times. I think one time in particular, while I was at her house, I went downstairs and got away from everybody, and I just sat by myself for a few minutes and had a good
Yeah.
cry, and then I ended up, if I remember correctly, I don't remember if Kristen came down. She may have, but I ended up doing okay the rest of the day. So, and then uh, we also spent a lot of time last year. We spent time at my sister's house, who's
Mm.
lives real close to where Kristen and Tony live. So just a short drive after we spent time at their house. We ended up going over to my sister's and spent time there. So it was, you know, I hung out with family a lot that day,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and especially since, like I said, Kristen's our only child. You know, I don't have, you know, we just have the one, and so
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time with her and her husband, and you know, that was good.
Yeah. And it's going to get more and more fun with a grandson.
Oh yeah.
That's when it gets really fun, right? With the little kids and
Eventually, because all he does right now is eat, messes diapers, and sleep. So
yeah, not
I,
right now, maybe not this Christmas season so much, but in a year, 2 years,
I
it'll be really fun.
I didn't even think he had eyes for a while because they were always shut.
Right. Yeah. So what do you anticipate for this year? Are you and Nancy going to be together? What's it going to be like for you
Well,
this year?
again, since she's in Florida and I'm actually, I used some vacation time before we hooked up, I guess you could say, before we got together.
Yeah.
Um, I've got 2 days left of vacation, and I'm going to be down there the weekend
Mm,
before Thanksgiving, just for a long weekend. That's what we've been doing, a Friday through Monday,
yeah.
or Thursday night through Monday.
Yeah.
And so my last vacation days will be taken up in right before Thanksgiving. So Christmas, I'll be here, she'll be there, and that's the way it will be. But I'm going down on January 3rd. I'm flying
Okay.
down, so I'll be down there. That again, that's the day Kathy died, and that's Nancy's birthday. So I'll be down there for her birthday at that point. And you know, I can see that Nancy and I are going to be on the phone a lot on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
You know, and then once she gets with her family, she's got 2 kids down in the Florida area now. So, and she has 2 grandkids there as well. So I'm sure that she's going to spend a lot of time on Christmas Day with her family, and I'll end up
Right.
spending time with Tony and Kristen. And but the times that we're both away from family, we'll be on a phone because that's what we do. So,
Yes. Oh, I remember lots of that. So Joel and I have only spent one Christmas together just when we were married last year
right.
because it was always he had, family to be with. I had family to be with. So it didn't really work. So I totally get that. And unfortunately, he's going to be gone on Thanksgiving. He's going to Rome. Um,
Wow.
his his son is studying abroad and wants him to come visit. So I at first was like, no, you promised once we got married we'd never spend holidays apart. But then I was like, no, it's a really big deal, for him to
Yeah.
go spend some time with his son, and I'll just get a lot of time with my kids. And then I was like, and I'm going to watch a Hallmark movie every day. He was like, good, enjoy that. I'm like, yeah, you won't be here. So that's what I'm doing. Like, okay. But anyways, that's beside the point of this episode. But I do know when you're doing the long distance thing, yeah, we would get creative. Have you guys ever watched a movie together long distance?
We've done a couple, and
Yeah, you
we're
can do
supposed to
watch
do another one
parties.
here this coming weekend. So,
Yeah, because you
you,
can
I
do them like through, I think we did it through Hulu. We've done it through Disney, where you like create a watch party and you can both watch at the same time. Sometimes the timing would be off, but that was fun.
right. Yeah, we've
Fun
done
to
that. Actually, you when I was on my way back from visiting her that first time in July, I
hmm
texted me, "How was your trip?"
Yeah.
And I was sitting in the Sarasota airport waiting to catch my plane, and you gave me some tips at that point, and
That's
you
right.
said you got to make sure. We always made sure that we had our next trip planned
Yes,
before the
always.
this one ended. And
hmm
so I'm like, oh no, I'm leaving in an hour and a half. I got to get going. So I
hmm
quickly booked. I talked with her and I quickly booked my next trip down. And before we left,
Awesome.
actually, I had a connecting flight in Atlanta. So when I got to Atlanta is when I actually booked my next flight down. So
That's
before I
so
got
awesome.
home, the second trip was planned. So,
I think that's, yeah, really important in long distance because otherwise,
but
like, I couldn't do it. I'm like, I have to know.
you you also gave us the tips about the watching movies together like that. You
Oh,
you
I
gave us
did.
some other
Okay.
ones. Yeah.
But it's
So
fun. I mean, you got to do what you got to do, like to make it work. Like, no, we're watching a movie tonight over the phone. I remember having popcorn, having the movie up, and then the phone right here, and the kids are like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "A movie date."
Mom's lost it.
I know. I'm like, it was the best we could do at the time. So I totally
Yeah,
get that. But I anticipate this. I'm like looking forward to like, okay, what's my this year? It is different. I'm married again. But there is always still that piece where we definitely feel his loss, feel the loss of their dad and, of Luke. And so I know, I mean, I don't think I'm going to be like crying, but last year, one of them kind of like acted out a little bit. And when I got down to the bottom of it, he just was like, it just doesn't feel like Christmas because, it was their first time with having Joel at Christmas. And like, it
right,
just doesn't feel like Christmas, and like, I know it's not ever going to feel the same, and then this year we have one of Joel's kids is going to be with us, which we've never had that before. So it's like every year is going to feel a little different. And just, I think for the listeners going into it, just knowing that it's never going to be the same. So don't anticipate it'll be the same because then you'll be really disappointed. Like, I'm going to
right.
try everything I can to recreate how it used to be. It's not going to feel the same and it's going to hurt.
Well, I think what Nancy and I are going to try and do are establish our own traditions. So,
Yes,
right from the
definitely.
start.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, no, I think that's really good too, which is what Joel and I are trying to do. But he's walking
and
into our house full of traditions.
right, and where it's going to be totally different because I'm selling my house and moving down there. I have a job I
Okay.
can work remotely. She does not.
Awesome.
So, I'm selling everything and moving down, and
Wow.
she doesn't have anybody at home. I don't have anybody at home. So, we'll be starting a new tradition in everything we do, it seems like. So that's
Yeah.
fine.
You get to live in Florida where it's warm. That sounds so awesome.
There's things called
Well,
hurricanes.
yeah, that's right. We just had that. So not so awesome.
And, and that area got hit twice in 2 weeks.
Wow. So
So yeah,
we never really heard the rest of the story. How was her house? Did her house get hit? Or maybe you said that I didn't.
she lives in a mobile home,
Mm-hmm.
which in theory is the worst thing you could be living in a hurricane zone. But
Right?
it's very affordable, so that's why she was in there. But
Yeah.
it surprisingly it didn't take it took damage, but nothing structural or nothing serious. So she has a lanai, a screened-in porch area that it blew all the screening out. She had some trellis work around that area as well, and that all flew out. There was a tree right at the back corner of her lanai that fell, but it fell
Mm.
away from the house and the lanai. So that was good. Um, there were some trim pieces. One piece of trim, I don't know. It may be in Orlando by the time it landed. They couldn't find it anywhere. And there's another piece of trim that was on the back of the house. The front of the house had a piece of trim that just kind of buckled and it was still
Mm.
attached. So, and then there was an awning she had over a window that is loose and it's still she can't get somebody there to fix it at this point. So she's
Mm.
hoping that in the next week somebody will come and fix that for her. But if not, if it's still hanging around and the week before Thanksgiving when I'm there, guess what I'm doing? I'm fixing her house.
You're gonna
So
fix it. That's so nice. Yeah,
so
and
yeah,
that's
her house survived. So
yeah, well, that's good. And what an amazing sacrifice you're making to move to her, just like Joel moved to me. That's great. Like that you're able to do that and so exciting. Like it's gonna be
in the last 5 years, we put in a new driveway in the house and the property, new sidewalks. Uh, we re-sided, re-roofed, put in new windows, put in a new deck, put in a new hot tub.
wow.
And one of the worst things, but it is new, is I had to replace my sewer line. So those are all new. So the house is
Wow.
brand new, and I guess it's exactly the way I want it. But you know what? The Lord's put us together.
Yes.
Somebody else will get this house, and it's going to be brand new for them. So in more ways than just a new house for them. But it's hopefully I'll be able to get my money out of it.
Yeah. How's
So
your daughter feeling about you being engaged?
I'm going to go back to the day that we put her into hospice care. Um, the floor doctor came around and said, "Listen, we got her blood cultures back. What we thought was side effects of the meds is not. It's cancer. It's the multiple myeloma just tearing through her body." They said
Mm.
that there's nothing we can do at this point. We just need to put her into hospice. And from that point on, she died 23 hours later. But
Mm.
after that doctor left and we talked a little bit for a family, Kristen and I and her husband went down to a family lounge on that floor and we sat there for a few minutes. And Kristen was crying. I was like, Kristen, it'll be okay. We'll get through this. And she goes, I'm not crying about mom. I'm crying for you. I was like,
Oh,
why me? She goes, I don't want you to be lonely.
oh,
And I was like, you know what? Let's cross that bridge when we get to it. Let's focus on mom right now. So, um, and she did. She was great. Kristen was great. But that was right from the very beginning, and she wanted me to be happy, and she understood that she would like for me to be happy here in Northeast Ohio, where we're both
yes.
call home for our whole lives. But she also understands that Lord brought us together, and Florida's not that far of a flight away. So
Right.
she's she was never one to really be interested in visiting Florida. She likes to go on more tourist type of vacations, but I'm sure she and Tony and Chase are going to be making many trips down to visit
Yes.
us, and we're going to be making many trips up to visit them. So
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad that she's just happy for you. And, even though she'll miss you, she knows
yeah,
this is,
she's sad about that, but yeah.
yeah, this is really good for your future. So, well, good. Anything else about holidays? I mean, I think we covered a lot about what it's like.
I, I've been facilitating grief share at my church for the
Oh,
last
that's great.
we've done 3 sessions now, three 13-week sessions. We're in the third session now. We also do grief shares surviving the holidays. We
Yes.
just did
Uh-huh.
for the first time last actually beginning of December last year we did it, which was a little bit late, but we're doing it on November 6th this year, so in a couple of weeks. I guess in a week from
Yeah.
tomorrow. So we're hosting that, and we're going to have that, and it's opened up to whoever needs it. I would suggest just if you're dealing with grief in the holiday season, seek that out. There are places that to really help as far as the grief shares surviving the holiday. It's a 1 week, 1 day event, and it's between 90 minutes to 2 hours, not that long, and it really helps.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm
That's
sure you've
amazing.
got plenty of things as well in your
Mm-hmm.
quiver there that you can pull out as far as your experience with it too. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
as far
It's
as what you work with.
Yeah, I'm doing a session, but I think by the time this airs, it'll already be done. But I might do another one where we're going to be talking about not only surviving but thriving the holidays, and it's going to be I'll just talk about because maybe I'll do another one, an interactive, limited to 15 people. We're going to break out into small groups, like in Zoom, and talk about like our holidays and what they're going to look like. Because the best way to go into it is to be prepared, and
Right.
so definitely preparing so that you can have the best holiday season ever. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes of some sessions I'm going to be doing because I might record them as well and finding ways to support each other. So yeah, all good ideas.
That's
Would
great advice about being prepared. That's great advice. That's
Yes. Yeah, because I think that's half the battle with everything in life. Be prepared. I mean, we can't always be prepared for things. And total side note, but it kind of reminds me, I took these classes the last couple days, or like last Friday and Saturday. It was called Grief After Trauma. And I learned all about trauma and about when you go through trauma. It's like all these neurons in your brain stick together. They're like an island and they don't have a pathway back to your brain. And so you have to work. It's kind of like when people are thrown into trauma, their brain is not really there. And you have to help them
Okay.
to get those pathways back. And so I learned like strategies for doing that. And I didn't know, like, I know grief, but I don't know trauma. That was a whole new world. I had time to prepare for Luke's death. So, I mean, yes, it was traumatic, but it wasn't like the people who's like the one that just aired. Well, I don't know when this airs, but a couple of weeks back when you're listening to this, Kim Lentz, her husband died in a car accident. Or we've got
Right.
people, all kinds of instant deaths, heart attacks, things like that, where that's like another layer of grief. That's like
Right.
trauma. So I learned all about trauma brain. And so if you have someone who experienced a different death, like an instant death, just know like that's a whole other level, and to try to get work with a counselor who knows trauma, because there's
Right.
so much to understand about that. But just like total side note, but I actually I don't really cry that much anymore, over Luke and that whole thing, but this really hit me hard. And I just like to know people's experience. So this is not about the holidays, but I'm wondering, Rob, your experience with this. So we got into this part. So almost everybody in my class was a first responder or a chaplain, police officer, that kind of thing. I was like the only one that was I'm like, I have a nonprofit for widows. I just want to learn how to help the people I work with. And the class was more like if you're there at death. And I'm so like, oh, okay, that's not really what I'm there later, but I learned a lot. And so they were talking about giving death notifications, like telling people someone died. And then they were talking about
Right.
viewing in bodies, and we watched a video about it. And the instructor's like, okay, so how does this video make you feel? And I was like, by then it was second day. They already all knew my story. And I was like, well, it's actually really triggering for me, because when my husband died, my hospice nurse had said, you do not want your kids seeing the body bag taking him out. Like, as soon as they're coming, you need to get out of the house, go somewhere else. And so somehow through him passing away, our hospice nurse was not there. Somebody told the hospice nurse, I mean, it was a different nurse. Somebody called the coroners right away, like right after he died. And so we didn't get time with his body. And they were talking in this class how you legally could have 48 hours with the body. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't know these things, and I wish I would have, even though I know his spirit wasn't there. It
Right.
just really triggered something within me that I was like, we could have had more time. And then we were talking about even when they go to be cremated, they sometimes have viewings. And I was like, nobody offered that to us. Like, I didn't know about that. And I felt like really sad. And I just kind of I was like crying and explaining it to all of them. And I was like, so my advice for all of you in this line of work is do not rush the person grieving, because I wish I would have had more time with his body, even though that's so stupid. Like, I carried with me for months that I didn't kiss him goodbye. I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot to kiss him goodbye. And it was like this horrible thing. And like, I don't know, this is not about our topic at all, but I'm just wondering, what was your experience? Did you get to spend time with Kathy's body? Did you want to? Like, I'm always curious.
I told you before how she took her last breath, but in the last 18 hours, she had her head tilted to the right and her eyes were closed, and she wasn't talking, she wasn't responding. She was just out. And
Yeah.
her last we met with the hospice nurse, and she told us about what hospice would be like and what to expect. And then she said, I got to go to the nurse's station. We were still at the hospital at this point. Got to go to the nurse's station and get some info. I'll be back in about 20 to 30 minutes. And at that point, we'll officially start hospice care. So right now, at this point, she was in comfort care from university hospitals. Well, about 15 minutes into the nurse being gone, Kathy turned her head, opened her eyes, and reached out like she was reaching for Jesus. And the look in her face was her eyes were wide open, like she was amazed at what she was watching, what she just witnessed, and that was it. And Kristen and I and Tony both all ran to her, thinking oh, she's awake.
Right.
And when we got there, that's when I realized that she was breathing so hard, with such labored breathing. She was no longer doing that. And I said, guys, she's not breathing. And that's when I stood up from leaning over her. I stood up and I said, just imagine what she's experiencing right now.
Wow.
And, but that was pretty much it. By that, shortly, we ended up calling the nurse, and the nurses ended up coming in, and they asked us to leave the room so they can do what they needed to do. And then we came back and they said, take as much time as you want, but that was really it. And I think we ended up being in there maybe 30 to 45 minutes with her. And that was it. I ended up then at that point, since we were still at the hospital, there were two nurses that really, really made an impression on all of us who were associated with the whole hospital. And Kathy's favorite nurse was named Matt, and Matt was not on duty at that point, and it was bad. I wanted to talk to him and hunt him down, and then a female nurse was the other one that, if you had to have favorite nurses, these were the two. And I hunted her down, and we hugged and we cried. We both cried. She was I don't know how oncology nurses can do it.
So hard.
I mean, you know how it is. And all they see, for the most part, every so often they'll see a success story, but those are so few and far between.
Yes.
And yet they're there day in, day out, every shift, and they're putting it in, and they got their smiles on their faces, and they're doing what they can to, not just for the patient, but for the family too. And so we had a good cry together, and that was it. And so it was maybe, like I said, 30 to 45 minutes with Kathy at that point, and that was it. So
yeah, that's interesting. Everybody has their own stories with that and what they want. And
we for the viewing and for the funeral, we had a closed casket because Kathy was a very pretty lady. She did not look like herself.
Right.
Cancer,
yeah.
She had a shaved head and everything, and we just decided, you know what, I got this nice big picture. I'm putting it up here for her.
Yeah.
This is how I want people to remember Kathy, not how she looked in that casket. So
no, that's good. Even if we would have been given the option of viewing, like, yes, maybe I would have visited again. I don't know, but I wouldn't. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have actually let people do it because he didn't look like himself. His face was sunken in, like he did not look well. And
right.
I also, I guess it was my trauma head, because it was traumatic. Like, he died of a blood clot. So it was suddenly, we didn't know he was dying right then. I took a bunch of pictures of him when he was dying, because I'm like, these will be the last pictures ever. But I deleted them. I actually handed my phone to my brother and said, I can't look at this. And he would not want to be remembered like this. And there's once in a while I'm like, man, I wish I still, and then I'm like, no, this is the most painful moment of my life. I don't really want to see that again. And he would not, like, he still, like, cared. Like, the last picture I ever posted of him, like, while he was live, he's like, oh, do you have to post one with my glasses on? Like, he still wanted to, like, look good. And like, it's like, I wish I wouldn't have my glasses. I get it. I take off my glasses if I have them on for pictures. So he still cared. And so I know he wouldn't want people to see him like that. Like,
right.
He was very handsome, and then he didn't look like himself at the end, and he hated that part, So I get that. Anyways, wow, we took a turn from holidays, but that's what happens sometimes on the podcast. That's why I love having somebody on here that we can just talk, because there's so many subjects we can talk about that I know.
Well, you know me, I like the banner. I like that bannering part. So
I know. There's not much banner on this show anymore, so it's good to be able to do that again. So, would you close us out in prayer and pray for our listeners and all that?
Sure can.
All right, thank
Lord,
you, Robert.
I just want to thank you for this opportunity that we have, Lord. I want to thank you for Michelle and for Mark originally, Lord. coming up with this podcast. I want to just thank you for helping both of them to direct it and show them how you wanted them to run this podcast, Lord, just for all the help it's done for so many people. Lord, as Michelle was telling me before the podcast, that this group is growing so much. And Lord, that's a good thing, but it's also a sad thing because it just means people are dealing with grief and dealing with the loss of a loved one, Lord. I just want to think of those right now that are hurting, are going to be hurting during the holidays, Lord, especially the new widowers, Lord. I want to just pray that they will seek comfort from you, Lord, that you are the true source of comfort. Lord, I just want to pray that it's such an individual thing how you work with each individual, Lord. I just want to pray that they will seek that comfort from you. And I just ask, Lord, that especially the newbies, Lord, that you'll help them through this time. Lord, and once again, I want to thank you for Michelle continuing this podcast. I know how much it's helped me, and I know how much it's helped others. Lord, I just want to thank you for that, and thank Michelle for this as well, Lord. Lord, I just want to ask this now in your son's name. Amen.
Amen. Well, if you like this podcast, give it a little bing, 5 stars.
Bing, 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 bing.
Thank you. On Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. And like Rob was saying, our group is growing. Our Widow Too Soon community, I mean, on Facebook is like, it's like 200 to 300 a day now. Like, thank you, Angela Heights, for being an admin with me. It's hard to keep up. We're trying to keep it a safe community, but still read through everybody's answers because we ask everybody if they are widowed and why they want to join this group. And sometimes they don't answer it. And then you got to go to their profile and try to figure out if they're really widowed. And it's a whole process. So, but if you'd like to be part of it, we would love to have you as somebody in our group where you can hear from other people just like you who are trying to figure out this grief thing. So anyways, what else was I going to say? I think that's it. Thanks for listening, everybody. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you all next time. And thank you again, Rob, for being here.
Thank you for bringing me up again. I appreciate that. I enjoy every time I get on here.
Yeah, we'll have you back, I'm sure, another time. So, all right, everybody, we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Widowed Too Soon with Michelle Bader Ebersole. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, rate and review. And we'd also love for you to join our Widowed Too Soon community on Facebook. See you next time.